Operation Status Quo. Operation Status Quo. Prepare to engage. Operation Status Quo. Ready to engage. Operation Status Quo. Engaged. Engaged. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Tuesday, isn't it? It is a Tuesday. A happy, lovely, beautiful Tuesday. You know, every day that I come on, I say it's a happy, beautiful day. Because, you know, the truth is, it is a beautiful, happy day. Every day is a beautiful, happy day right here on Operation Status Quo. Because, as you know, this is a place of love and togetherness and oneness. A place for us to share our thoughts and ideas and to explore what's going on in the world and kind of mitigate our way through these crazy times and circumstances as we bring ourselves to fruition into a new, beautiful place. You know, it's funny. I was ready to say as we birth into a new world. But you know, some of the stuff I follow, it's funny. One of the things talks about, you know, language and some of the words we use and how they keep us actually suppressed in a sense. For example, one of the words is, as opposed to saying, oh, I understand what you mean, you would say, I understand. You know, when you say I understand, the word under, like, it puts you at a lower level. I mean, this is like supposedly, you know, this is like a whole, I don't know how I do that. I just got on a whole different topic of what I'm supposed to be talking about today. But real quickly, you know, and you know, you could say understand because when someone expresses something to you and you know, quote unquote, how we would say understand, you understand, meaning it comes from within, you resonate, you understand the truth, as it were, as opposed to understand where, you know, you are taking orders and this is the rules. Do you understand? I understand. I am under you. You know, it's part of the program, the mainstream program, as it were, to keep us, you know, in the state that we're in. So this, I was going to say birth, but birth is another thing. You know, birth has this tendency for, well, so I wish I can do it justice as far as breaking down the language, but you know, basically how when we're born, you know, really you should say it's your born day, not your birthday, because your birth, and then, you know, they talk about how you know, you're immediately transferred onto a piece of paper as a birth certificate, which really basically you know, makes you a commodity, a piece of cattle. I know this sounds like outlandish in a certain type of way, but these are the kind of simple or behind the scenes, the covert, if you will, of what's the words I'm looking for? Plan, you know, or the symbolism behind, like, you know, what our world really is, and we don't even realize so much of what's going on. So I just find that pretty interesting. So I wanted to make it a simple comment, say birthing into a new world, but let's say we're borning into a brand new world. It's a brand new world. Hey, Ian Ellis, are you out there? Ian Ellis, what's up, buddy? Shalom to you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here on the chat. I love this chat. You know, honestly, as I move forward with this show, that's one of the main things I'm really trying to establish is people participating in the chat while I'm on live. This way, whatchamacallit, this way you guys can participate and share your thoughts, and I'm just not sitting here stumbling on and on. I try to share some ideas to, you know, provoke thought and have discussion. So that's great. Thank you, sir. Shalom back to you. All right. Anyway, so this is Operation Status Quo, where, of course, we observe the status quo of life. We learn to flow with the status quo of life. And then, of course, we create our own flow of quo because that's the only way to go, yo. And honestly, I think once this world kind of flips over into the new paradigm that we're moving towards, we won't have to, you know, flow with the quo and mitigate, you know, because the quo will become the new quo. I mean, that's kind of what this is all about, Operation Status Quo. You know, we're watching what's going on in the world and, you know, seeing all the madness that kind of pulls us apart from one another and realizing that we've been, you know, again, you know, lied to and really kept as I always say, you know, we're cattle, we're whatever, we're commodities. Yeah. But, you know, I just consider us like, you know, socioeconomic slaves, basically. You know, they tell you you're free, but how much freedom do you have if you don't have any, you know, do re mi in your pocket? So they've created this way of keeping us apart and not using the abundance that's around us in our life, the earth and everything else. But anyway, I'm going off on a really long tangent here to start, but thank you for being here. First of all, if you're new here, I really appreciate you taking the time. And I am Pete Palma, by the way. I don't think I've said that, but this is Operation Status Quo. And today is the 6th of June in the good year 2023. And today's episode is entitled The Race to, is it the race for, right? What the hell did I write? The race to race? No, the race to be racist. That's what I wrote, right? I can't see it right now. I gotta hold on. Let me blow this up. I can't remember what the hell. Ladies and gentlemen, the race to be racist. If you've been with me, then you understand my personality and that it tends to get a little fluttered at times. But it's only because my brain's moving very quickly. I would like for it to slow down. It would take a lot of pressure off me, but that's for sure. All right, but anyway, so today's episode, the race to be racist. And what am I talking about? I'm going to go right to my notes so I can get this out the right way, because I'll just start rambling and I'll miss everything I kind of wanted to get into, right? So basically, this concept that I'm talking about, to me personally, is I don't want to say this in a way because I know, I've had conversations with people before. And, my background is, obviously I'm American, right? Because I was born in America, but it's like my family is Italian mostly, I think there's a little bit there may be some French I hear in there, but generally, I'm basically, all Italian, my family, right? So I guess that means I'm a white person. Unfortunately, I never like to say that. I like to say I'm Mediterranean, but I guess I'm a white person. I hate checking that box on applications or anything like for your race. I got to say I'm white. Like, I don't want to be a white person. Don't you understand? Nobody likes white people anymore. But I'm just kidding around, of course. But anyway, the concept behind what I'm saying here is how mainstream media basically, creates racism. Because this is what I was going to say when I went off on another tangent. Basically, I've never, and people have gotten agitated with me. That's why I was bringing this up, that I guess I'm white. But I always say that, I've had experiences where I felt, when I was one in another culture, and everybody else was something else. I can understand. So, I understand the feeling of a little out of place or whatever. So, I'm not denying anything. But just from my life experience and how I feel, I'm not saying I don't believe that racism doesn't exist at all. There's always some kind of kookadoo out there that is, has a lower mentality and just hates because they hate, whatever the case may be. But I also think a lot of that, even the people who are that way, kind of stems from, what their programming was and the family upbringing and what they're seeing. Again, it's part of the program. I think naturally, truth, love, all that type of, there is no such thing as racism, because there is really no such thing as race, because ultimately we're all one energy, just projecting out in different forms. And, all the races in my mind, complement one another for, what make up the world. It wouldn't be this way if it wasn't meant to be this way, because everything is perfect, in God's creation. If you want to, get to that point, again, the physical world is just an expression of divinity. So, obviously we, at heart, how can any person, quote unquote, if you believe you're individual person, hate another group of people when in actuality, everything is a reflection. So if you're hating someone else, ultimately, you're hating yourself. So, what else do I got here? Yes, I feel like, the messages they put out through the news and through Hollywood and everything, they make movies about, who's oppressed, and everything they show on TV, even some, the stuff like what happened with Rodney King way back in the day and what happened with George Floyd, a few years ago. And, they're always showing these stories of, somebody running and, somebody shooting, an African-American kid or something like that. And I'm not saying it doesn't. First of all, two things. One, when these mainstream things happen, like the George Floyd thing, I'm not saying obviously it happened, but I also feel that it was purposely orchestrated, the way it was done. Just where the cameras were, because again, they're always trying to get us riled up, right? They're trying to make us afraid of each other. They're trying to make us, hate the police and all this type of stuff. And, I don't want to go down the road about the police, but I'll just say it in general, they're purposely creating the scenarios for us to, feel divided. So that's what they say. What I was saying too is they keep talking about, continue, to make progress. We're making progress, right? If you're watching on the news, especially because this was just on, this is why I popped into my head yesterday anyway, because whatever happened with that African-American senator, whatever, whatever he is, that was on The View. Oh, that show, The View. I mean, are these people just insane, And this is not even to chastise those like on the quote unquote left or woke or whatever. It's just like, but all I got to say is like, why are these people just so angry all the time? They're so angry and entitled, and it's just like I don't know, just the way they make it about things. It's just like anger. It doesn't come from any space of having real conversation and solving issues. But they create this whole dynamic of always saying, this is a struggle in our country, racism, and, we're making progress, we're making progress. But, as I said before, I believe it's a socioeconomic structures they create, to purposely divide. I mean, you think about how some of these communities, like, I remember watching, I don't know, because was it from the movie Boys in the Hood or one of those kind of things that I had watched. And, you see how these African-American communities in these inner cities, they create that scenario, right, to keep them in that impoverished type of space. I mean, even the stores and everything they put in there, they got like, a liquor store in every corner, gun stores. I mean, just say like they perpetuate it into the area and then can say, oh, look at what's going on. And then to the outside world, people will say, oh, look, African-Americans, they're some kind of animals, they're shooting each other and, and destroying the city, but they're not destroying the city. The city itself is kept down, right? And the opportunities aren't given. And then, it creates the scenario where, of course, you're going to try to, fight to survive. So, again, I feel everything basically comes down to this whole oppression, especially, socioeconomic oppression. They create levels of society. You're this, you're that, you're here, you're there. You make this much money, or, you're entitled to this and you can only have that. And they create all these, divides in a fake crap economy that's not even real anyway, that makes you a debtor and enslaved, financially your whole life. So, I mean, I think that's mostly where it comes from, personally. That's why I always get a kick out of when they say about we're making progress, but, and again, I was just say, history shows whatever, what shows. So I'm saying, of course, there's been, suffering, but and I've said this multiple times, I feel the African-American community really has been attacked, because of how pure their culture is, and they the powers that be, they don't want that. They got to kind of tamp that down because, and that's why, I feel they've created a lot of, like, for example, I'm going to go down some of I always go down some of these, roads. You can look up stuff yourself, but it really was like people from the Democratic Party that created, the KKK and things like that. So, that's what really cracks me up. Even the people that are like, Reverend Sharpton and these people that come out and speak on behalf of the African-American community, like, I don't feel like they're good representation for the people and the culture. I mean, tell me, because like I'm not African-American, and maybe I'm totally wrong, right? Like, I don't see that kind of perceptive, that side of things. But I feel like people like that create more divisiveness and hate, because they're always just like, this can't be, and this, that, and remember, and they're bought and paid for. If somebody was really out there, speaking something, they wouldn't be. You saw what happened to, Martin Luther King Jr., right? So, just trying to say. So, when you're out there and you're really speaking and trying to bring people together and you're not bought and paid for, bought and sold, or whatever you want to say, by the mainstream agenda, then you're going to have a little bit of a problem. So, and that's just another facet of it, and again, just to go back to say, let's say, oh, yeah, so they get that part, right? And then they, put this storyline out of like, African Americans are totally oppressed or whatever, and white people are just horrible and all that. And then you get this whole thing that develops out of that of like, white people have to hate themselves now. Like, what is it? What do they call it? The white privilege or this nonsense? It's just like, listen, going back to what I said, I guess I'm white, but, what privilege? I mean, for me, I'm just speaking for me. Like, I was never somebody just expected to have things handed to me. I mean, I went to school. The school I went to was a good public school in New Jersey, and the culture was diverse. It wasn't just a bunch of white kids that are only allowed. Everybody was getting a good education and stuff. So, what was I going to? Yeah, and then but instead now they create this whole other, because of what's going on in the world, and they want to keep perpetuating racism. So they have to, first of all say how racist everybody is. And now, white people have to understand that they're privileged and they really should not like themselves, because they're, because they're white, it's like, and, just think about what we're being told. Just think about what we're being told in comparison to like what you see in your everyday life. Like how many times do you go out as a white, a black, an Asian, whatever you may be, Middle Eastern, whatever. And, how much do you see of, people like treating you like crap, like I said, I'll speak on this. I went one time, I remember in my younger days, to see a band, and it was in a bar in a African-American neighborhood. And I was with a couple of my friends. Well, actually it was two of my friends. So it was like three of us, right? And these three, white guys walk into this place, and everybody it was all, African-Americans. And I, in that moment, like I saw the way they looked at me and different things, and I thought, I can really understand, like, what it must feel like to be out of place a little bit, and that you're like, what's this white boy doing in here? It's like, no, I'm just here to listen to the music. I'm not here to arrest anybody or anything. So, but everybody was very nice. In general, I feel people are very nice. I never have a problem. I get along with anybody as long as I can smile and say hello, and they say hello. I'm happy to help anybody. So just find it pretty interesting when I thought about that dynamic, because, it's one of the few times I guess I experienced, and, when I've gone overseas a few times to other countries, and, I'm the American and everybody else is something else, and everybody just assumes I'm from New York because I say, hey, how you doing? But no, I'm not from, hold on, I got to get my applause over here because I'm not from New York. I'm sorry to the New York people, but I am not from New York, okay? Philadelphia originally. South Jersey. I guess close enough, but everybody goes, oh, you're from New York. No, New York. They talk like New York. I'm going, hey, how you doing? Hey-o. It's totally different. It's totally different. All right, so where else was I going with this? Yeah, so, and going back to what I was saying, we don't need to make progress, right? Like, you keep talking, we need to make progress, because at the true level, at the true level, life loves life, right? And that's the essence of everything that we try to talk about here on this show. They want to make us believe that we're different by our skin color or ethnicity, and all that thing, and quite honestly, I feel that is it's an insult to each and every one of us. It really is an insult that they take our divine sovereignty or divine essence, and they whittle it down into you're this and you're that, and these people don't like those people, and this people did this to those people. How easy is it for? You see everything again. If you're here regularly, you know what I'm talking about. Like the outside world is fake. We're watching a show. Between politics, between our financial system, educational system, everything's been is just been created to keep us in a space of our non-authentic selves. And, and that's what they do with the racism. That's exactly why they've created this whole agenda of like pitting us against each other. Because, if the whites and the blacks and the Jews and the Hindus and the Mexicans and the whatever else are all mad at each other and worried about this, that, and the other, fighting in the streets and the neighborhoods, we're not cohesive then, right? We're not cohesive, and we're not looking at the big picture and saying, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how come I can't afford to feed my family? And you guys are sending billions of dollars all over the place to other people, right? So, there's just too much profit in the agenda, So that's what I would say overall. There's just too much profit in the agenda of creating racism. It's a business. It's all a business. Everything they do is a business. And it's the business of keeping us in the dark. It's in the business of keeping us away from each other, away from ourselves, and just like sitting there with your, Doritos and your Netflix and your soda pop, and just sitting there and, dying as you live. Like I said, what I said yesterday was dying as we live, or whatever the name of the show was yesterday. And that's basically kind of what I was talking about. But those are my general thoughts, today. Like, I don't know, what do you think? Drop me some comments. Let me know what you think. Hey-o. Because I really do, I hate to say it because I know it's like such a, it's such a touchy topic overall because of the way things have been for so long. But just in general, I don't I mean, I don't want to say I don't believe in racism because I don't want to make it sound like I'm dismissing people that have had issues and stuff. But I mean, essentially, I don't believe in it. Like, I don't believe, I just don't believe any of it. It's like, I don't feel it. I don't think other people really feel it and think it's out there. It's just more of the program they create. And unfortunately, what happens with that is I think more so than when a person is mistreated in a certain way, I think more so than it being actually, racism as like, I don't like this culture. I think it's more of a bigger issue. It's the programming, right? It's the subconscious stuff that's been setting in people's brains for how long, between watching TV and watching commercials, watching the propaganda Hollywood puts out, even like the sports, right? Like how on the helmets of the football players, they're all on the Black Lives Matter, and of course I would not disagree. And I know they hate, but I'm just saying I think some people who support that type of agenda tend to not like the concept of when people say, of course, Black Lives Matter, because all lives matter. But no, and again, that's another level of divide. It's like, of course, all lives matter, but, it has to be, we have to focus on this, but this is, some sort of funded campaign to further divide, because not for anything, if the organization Black Lives Matter was really about, that, right? Black Lives Matter and support, they would be the first to say all lives matter, they would be the first to say it, because they're trying to show, yes, these lives matter, all lives matter. They would see it from a bigger perspective instead of isolating it down to their niche, as it were. So I don't know. I know it's a touchy thing, but I called it the race to be racist, because these organizations, the powers that be, whatever, it's their race. They're running the race, and they're trying to see how fast they can get us all against each other and divided. And they've been doing a great job, for a long time. But these are the times they are a-changing, and they are a-changing. And it's time for us to, kind of step forward and, see past these things. And, even if we have questions, and there are some aspects of life that are not right, or however you want to say it, right? But at the end of the day, it's up to us as individuals on an individual basis, right, to eliminate it. If there are people who really are, have strong feelings towards this issue, then it's not about like trying to call attention to it and prove that it's right, or get some sort of recognition or payback or whatever, the reparations and, all these type of things, instead of going that route, say, I believe that, this kind of exists. So why not then, step aside, right? And say, I'm instead of pushing the agenda this way of showing what's wrong, and keep putting that idea out there, right? Because that's what we put out is what comes out and is created and manifests in the world. So if it is something that bothers you and you do feel that, it needs to be changed, then instead of trying to focus on it and showing that this is what's going on, start living without it, right? Start living each day with being kind to one another and saying things in a different way, or ingratiating maybe, a person or a place that you wouldn't because of these fears and these ideas that they put out there. So I don't know. It's just like what's going on down here in Florida or whatever. Some of these states are, telling people not to come down here because they feel like, DeSantis is racist or whatever the case may be. I don't know all the details. I don't follow all the politics stuff. Whatever he's doing that makes people feel like he's going against African Americans. All I know is I've been living down here for a good year and a half now. There are a lot of African Americans, and everybody seems pretty happy. So I really don't know why or what. But if that is the case, instead of telling people to boycott Florida, right, or other communities encouraging other African American communities to boycott, why boycott, right? Why not say, you know what? If that's how they are down there, we're going to go down there and show even more love. We're going to show even more love, right? If it's the case, let's go down there and show more love, so that they can't suppress us. They can't push, Instead, it's almost like a way to get them out, right? That's more racist than whatever's going on. Heyo. So I don't know, that's how I see it anyway. But so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's about what I have for you here today on Operation Status Quo. As always, I appreciate your time being here with me. Operation Status Quo, where of course we learn to flow with the quo. We observe the status quo of life. We flow with the quo of life, and then we create our own flow of quo, because that's the only way to go. As I always say, your participation here is more than encouraged. I've been reaching out to a number of people, and I really, think it's going to be, it takes people time. They say yeah, and they're interested, but by the time you get somebody and you talk a little bit and you finally get it squared away, and you do so. But you're welcome here anytime. So, and I got people in the pipeline, as it were, but they'll be coming on, and but you're welcome here too. So all you have to do is reach out to me. My contact information is in the description box below. Send me an email, whatever the case may be. Just let me know who you are and that you watch, and that maybe you're interested to come on and be a guest or share a skill, talent, whatever it is that you have, because that's what this show ultimately is about, creating a community and a space for people to be together and to grow and learn from each other, enjoy life, all that stuff, and stop all this nonsense that's been going on for so long, right? I mean, we're all kind of tired of it, right? All right, anyway, so please take the time to like, subscribe, share, send this out to your family, your friends, those you love, and of course, those you despise as well, because they need the most help of all. God bless each and every one of you. I love you. I truly do, individually as well as a group. You're always welcome here. I thank you for your time. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Until then, Operation Status Quo disengaged.